Okay, this week we're going to be reviewing some important concepts from the year. We learned them a while back in February, so I thought it'd be a good time to kind of check in on them and go through them a little bit. We'll take them one step further, though, this week with decimals and fractions. So we're going to review solving multi-step equations. We kind of had a checklist that we used throughout the year, or when we started learning this. We always want to check for distributive property first, see if we can distribute to get rid of our parentheses within our problem. Second step was we want to look for combining like terms, see if we can simplify in any spots. And then the third thing we checked for were, do I have variables on both sides, and how can I get them to one side of the equation so like I can go ahead and solve. So we'll look at the first one. So multi-step equation, but we're just going to throw some decimals in here. We're just going to use a calculator to kind of speed up this process and go from there. So multi-step equation, I don't have distributive property. I do have things I can combine. So I'm going to draw my line here, and I'm going to combine my 2.9x with my 7.1x. That's going to combine and make 10x minus 5.6 is equal to 0.9. And from there, I got a two-step equation. So I add 5.6 to both sides. I have 10x equals 6.5. Divide by 10. And I get an x value of 0.65. So wouldn't change anything, even though it has decimals. We just go ahead and solve as we would if it were integers. So problem number 2. 6 minus 2 plus x equals 2 minus 1.5x. So this, we check for distributive property. Don't have it. Check for combining like terms. I can't there's nothing to combine on either side of the equal sign. So I can't combine anything here. And on the right side, I can't combine anything here. If you were looking at the x and the negative 1.5x, you might think you can combine it. We're not going to combine those together, but we're going to go to step 3 and say, hey, they're on different sides of the equation. I'm going to add 1.5x to both sides. The reason I'm going to do that is I know I'll get a positive value in front of my variable, which if I can keep positives or get positives, I want to. So this is going to give me 6.02 plus 2.5x is equal to my 2. Then I'm going to go ahead and subtract 6.02. 2.5x is equal to, did I do that right? Yep, 2 minus 6.02. It's going to give me negative 4.02. And then I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2.5, giving me an x value of negative 1.608. So if we recap, multi-step equations with decimals, just go ahead and solve normally. Now we're going to look at fractions. So fractions are going to be a little trickier. They're not trickier, but as we all know, fractions can be difficult. There's a lot of places to make mistakes with decimals. So let's just quick review our mistakes to make with fractions. So let's review when we deal with fractions. When we add and subtract fractions, we need common denominators. When we multiply or divide fractions, we don't need common denominators, but we would multiply the numerator times the numerator, denominator times the denominator, and so on. So if I'm looking at this equation, let's let it focus here a second. I have 1/4 x equals negative 1/3 x plus 8/9. This is kind of a nightmare. Looking at it, there's multiple different denominators. I'd have to get a common one. It's kind of messy. I'd have to change a bunch of things. So we have a way we can get rid of fractions. We're going to just call it clearing fractions. I'm going to look at the denominators, 4, 3, and 9. So my denominators are 4, 3, and 9. And I want to think, what's a common denominator of 4, 3, and 9? I want the lowest number that they go into, and that we call the least common denominator, which in this case is 36. Can't write? 36. So 36 is the lowest value that 4, 3, and 9 go into equally. What we can do now, once we identify that value, we're going to take that value and we are going to multiply it by everything on the left and multiply it by everything on the right. That's keeping balance in my equation, because if I do something on the left, I have to do it on the right. So we're going to multiply by 36, and then we're going to multiply this whole side by 36. So distributive property would tell me each term gets multiplied by 36, leaving me with 36 times 1/4 x equals 36 times negative 1/3 x plus 8/9 times 36. Now, we chose 36 because every denominator will go into it. So if we do 36 divided by 4, I'm going to get 9, and then 9 times 1, so 36 times 1/4 is 9, so 9x equals 36 divided by 3 is going to be 12, and then I multiply by negative 1, so this gives me negative 12x, and then 8/9 times 36. 36 divided by 9 is 4. 4 times 8 is 32. I've gotten rid of my fractions, but I've kept everything equivalent. So now I would go ahead and solve this as normal. So I'm going to box, actually I'm not going to box my term. I have variables on both sides. I should cross that out. I'm going to move my 12x to the other side. That's going to give me 21x equals 32. Divide by 21. 32 divided by 21. X equals 1.524. And we'll put an about symbol because we rounded. All right, let's look at 4. Same idea. We're going to look for the common denominator, the least common denominator for 8, 5, 8, and 5. All right, a little easier there. It's going to be 40. So I'm going to multiply each term by 40. So I'm skipping showing that distributive property step. All right, so I do 40 divided by 8 is 5, and it was negative, so this would be negative 5w minus 40 divided by 5 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16 equals 40 divided by 8 is 5. 5w plus 40 divided by 5 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. These are equivalent, so now I can go ahead and solve. I'm going to add my 5w, not 10w. I was one step ahead of myself. That gives me 10w plus 24 equals, make sure you keep that negative on your 16. Subtract 24 gives me negative 40 equals 10w. Divide by 10. W equals negative 4. So when we have fractions, we want to find a least common denominator, multiply each term by that value. Even if that term was just a variable, or maybe it was a whole number, we would still multiply it by the LCD. And then we'll eliminate our fractions and then solve it as normal. And that's how we can solve kind of a reminder of how we solve multi-step equations, and then we threw the decimals and fractions in there. So hope that helps. And then that practice will help solidify that skill.